use the word emergency for the first time in about...
This is Jim, and,
Receiving this message. We are Ken Jennings and John Roderick. We speak to you from our present, which we can only assume is your distant past, the turbulent time that was the early 21st century.
Fearing the great cataclysm that will surely befall our civilization, we began this monumental reference of strange and obscure human knowledge. These recordings represent our attempt to compile and preserve wonders and esoterica that would otherwise be lost.
So whether you're listening from an advanced civilization or have just reinvented the technology to decrypt our transmissions, this is our legacy to you.
This is our time capsule. This is the Omnibus.
You have accessed entry 1081.MI0303, certificate number 32041. Ronco.
After 7 years of advertising my Ronco electric food dehydrator and beef jerky machine, I've decided to drop the price. The new price is so ridiculously low, you have to watch.
Ronco. Does that name mean anything to you culturally?
Yeah, sure. It reminds me of the scattered infomercial watching I did late at night in college.
But when you were growing up in Korea and Shoreline, Washington, and various spots in between, like Midway Island,
yeah,
you didn't have you didn't watch infomercials.
No infomercials.
No late night TV
on Korean television. Just the normal normal length ads for crackers that tasted like squid and stuff like that.
Right, we had those here too.
But summers in the States. Sometimes on my grandparents' satellite dish, we'd flip by infomercials, and you'd kind of get sucked in a little bit.
Yeah, you mentioned before we started recording that watching infomercials all the way through seemed to you to be an activity that people did in college when they were high.
Yeah, you asked me if I watched a lot of infomercials, and no.
You were like, no, I didn't
If you're sober, you do not sit and watch the end of the infomercial. You go past the infomercial and see what's on the other stations.
It's funny because I get drawn into infomercials, not because I'm interested in the product, but I'm interested in the pitch or interested in watching someone make such a lot of effort to try and sell some Ginsu knives or whatever.
He really is doing something. Most people in ads are not actually, they're not doing anything. They're not producing a product. They're not in the middle of an activity. They're not battling entropy in any way. But that's
Right.
not true of infomercials. In infomercials, you're a fly on the wall for a project.
Yeah, they're often set in a talk show environment or a cooking show environment.
It's somehow a talk show and a kitchen.
Like, who are the 800 people that are in the studio audience of a Vegematic commercial?
But they're so happy to be there.
They really are.
Like, I have never seen an audience that primed to like anything. Can you imagine a live music show where people are as nuts as the people at a Chop-O-Matic
My
demonstration?
career would have been so much different. And they all look like people that are actually like that you would see at an Oprah show. It's not like they took a school bus down to Skid Row and gave everybody $20 to come sit in a studio audience and applaud. They're a bunch of people that seemed like they lined up to be here.
I've seen many a paid studio audience in LA, and it's just tourists who got handed a thing at the corner of Hollywood and Vine and were like, oh boy,
A show!
not knowing what they have terrible experience they have signed up for. But maybe it's something about the second person. It's very important to have a second person in the infomercial who tells you how to think about the situation and the product, because when they're excited, boy, oh boy, is that contagious.
They can't believe it.
They really can't. And that makes you not be able to believe it either. Without her there, you would be like, do I believe this? I guess I do. It's on TV.
Chopping onions is so much work, Ken. But I don't believe how easy it is now.
You know what I think? I think there has to be a better way. I perpetually think this when I watch something being done. I think There has to be
There
a better
has to
way.
be a better
This
way.
can't be the peak of human potential and achievement.
But you usually think, I'll hire someone to do this. There is a better way.
I mean, honestly, that is what I think, because I've seen myself try to change a shower head or whatever, and I'm like, it eventually got done, but it took 6 hours and 2 trips to Home Depot, and it really would just make me happier if someone who knew what they were doing, someone who already knows the better way, does it.
Right. Chopping onions is so hard, but when Mindy does it, I don't even notice it.
Yes, when I say hire, I mean just expect someone else in my household to take care of it.
Well, there's something about the kind of direct marketing energy of infomercials that's just really distinctly American, and weirdly, so much of the language of infomercials and the products that first see the light of day in that as seen on TV infomercial universe have become part of just the lexicon of America. We all think of the anything with "omatic" at the end, all of the like act now, urgent pitch.
But wait, there's more. If you act now.
As seen on TV, set it and forget it.
Yeah, it's a whole language.
And a lot of this language comes from one place, and that is the Ronco Corporation.
Is it really the Ronco Corporation?
Well,
It's got co twice.
it's
Or is it the Ron Corporation, like the Rand Corporation?
it's shrimp scampi. No, it's Ronco.
I want to start calling it the Ron Corporation. It's like the Rand Corporation, but it's just some guy and his lazy boy being like, well, we're never going to go to Mars.
There is a guy named Ron. That's the best part.
Yes.
The Ron Corporation.
And he's
That seems even way more sinister. Ronco seems fun.
Ron. I don't know if I'm supposed to be saying Ronco with like an NG sound, or is it Ronco?
I say Ronco, but not Ronco. It's not Wrongco.
Ronco.
Ronco.
Ronco. Ronco. Ronco.
Ronco. I think you have to hit the N a little bit harder. It's
You
not
do.
Ronco.
You don't want it to rhyme with Bronco.
No, it's Ronco.
Do you say Bronco with the little implied NG?
I don't say Bronco.
No, I don't either. That'd be weird.
Yeah, it would be weird. It's Bronc.
Yes.
Bronc, but it's not Ronc.
Okay.
Ronco. I started researching to do an episode of Omnibus. I started researching a product that I remembered as being a kind of hilarious and interesting product
What
from
was
my
it?
childhood called the Bone Phone, which was an AM.
Is that a
FM.
euphemism?
It's not.
Hey, baby, you want to come talk on the bone phone?
The Bone Phone was a product from the very late 1970s. It had about a year and a half or 2 year run. It was a Radio Shack marketed product that was an AM FM radio, which were very popular in the 1970s, a transistor radio.
Got to have your AM FM radio.
But in this case, it was packaged in a what is the material? The same stuff that you would put, not in a wetsuit, but it's some of that miracle fabric that we saw so much of in the late 70s, early 80s, that your croquis were made of, and
yeah,
this kind of
some stretchy polyester. thing.
Polyester, and it had speakers in it, and you wore it as a scarf. And so you would turn the radio on, and the
Wait, is this made up?
no. It's and it's Bone Phone with an F. Bone Phone.
Why? Hold on. This is for people who want to listen to music and are wearing a scarf.
Well,
I feel like most of the time when I'm listening to music, I am not wearing a scarf or looking to wear a scarf.
the challenge of the transistor radio was that it was, the thing that was great about it. It was a battery powered handheld little radio. The problem was that it wasn't in stereo, which was the selling point of FM, and also you had to have it in your hand. It was it took up one of only two hands that you had.
Half your hands.
And if you were wearing headphones in the 1970s were those big sort of space age moon
bubbles,
and so it made it difficult to do physical activity. Big headphones were great if you were on roller skates and wearing short shorts and in Venice, California.
This seems very specific to a mental picture of yours.
But for instance, if you were in the Dire Straits video Skate Away, big headphones were great. But if you were skiing or if you were doing some other kind of, real physical activity, jogging, for instance, a big set of headphones weren't going to work for you.
Sure.
And so the idea of the Bone Phone was it was a wearable stereo.
This is for people who want to jog wearing a scarf.
They want to jog wearing a scarf, or and I think skiing was where the Bone Phone originated because the
is this a thing? You're doing a winter sport and you want to have a soundtrack?
It never was for me because I love the sound of the
sure.
quiet
Isn't
animals.
that why you're out there?
People love to ski or do any activity. People love to sit at home and talk to their spouse with a set of headphones on and actually listening to something else.
You want to be out there and you want to hear the chittering of the snowy owl and the peeping
owls.
of the voles.
But
you want to hear voles.
When the Sony Walkman came on the scene, it really changed the way people skied. They put the headphones on, and then you could ski to Bohemian Rhapsody instead of just the sound of yourself panting.
Is that safe? I never know if I should let my son bike with his earbuds in. Or...
I am someone who comes out pretty strongly against headphones most of the time because I feel like it's not only not safe, but it's like it breaks the social compact.
Yes.
A lot of people fight me on that because headphones are great for them. And it's just a difference, I think, in some people don't want to live in the world they're in.
They just want to see the world burn.
They want to fly off into their magical space where music is playing.
The
all the time.
McElroys are talking to them.
The first time I ever put on headphones and walked down the street, I was in 6th grade, and I couldn't believe it. It was fantastic. I'd never had the experience before of, stereo, and I was listening to the Beatles' Blue Album on cassette on a brand new Walkman that I just bought. It was 1980 probably, and it was magic. Just blew me away.
You're a movie character. You have a soundtrack.
Yeah, that's right. Everything now is animated to this, to like I Am the Walrus. I mean, wouldn't you want to live in I Am the Walrus all the time?
You give everything a beat. It's like the scene in Baby Driver where the world becomes choreographed to your private soundtrack.
And the problem for me was that the first time my Walkman ran out of batteries, I realized how expensive batteries were, and I didn't want to. And I immediately realized the whole thing was a scam. It was not worth it.
It's a scam.
It was not worth it.
Pop music just exists to sell you batteries.
It's just a battery scam.
Rod Stewart owns Big Battery.
But I have this encounter with people every single day, even now during the quarantine. You're walking down the street, someone else is coming the other way. When you get within that 15 to 20 feet away from the person, I go, "Hey, how's it going? Hi, nice day." And the person gets that irritated look, pulls one headphone slightly out.
You have to slightly tip your head.
Yeah. Pulls the headphone kind of half out and goes, "Huh?" And you go, "Never mind."
My son does this to me in our house 6 times a day.
Huh? What? And it's like, you know what? You're in the world, I'm in the world, but you're not in the world. You're in your own world. And so anyway, good luck. God bless. I didn't have anything important to say, but somehow this, which for thousands of years has been like a standard human encounter, has now been made awkward, and I feel like an idiot.
But the Bone Phone
hello.
predated this? It was the first time anybody had...
So the Bone Phone was basically a scarf that had 2 speakers in it, and it sat around your shoulders so that the 2 speakers were behind your ears and pointed up.
But behind your ears are cupped to not hear sound coming from behind them.
Yeah, but the effect was, this isn't the greatest stereo you ever heard, but it was a form of stereo that was hands-free, and also you could still hear your environment around you.
Right.
The thing that was fakey about the Bone Phone was that it was sold, the reason it's called a Bone Phone, it was
why is it called a Bone Phone? Scarves don't have bones.
It was sold according to the premise that the sound was not being broadcast from these speakers, but was actually vibrating through your bones.
This is like the Partridge Family episode where they can hear radio in their teeth fillings.
Right.
Like Lucille Ball said used to happen to her.
Yes, except this was going to... The Bone Phone was a magic device, and it was going to vibrate the music through your bones. You were going to hear it in your skull, and it was going to sound not like the artificial sound of music coming into your ears through headphones, but the very natural sound of music in your bones.
What if... I often go to a rock show and think, what if I was the amp?
Yeah, right.
That's what I want to know.
But you do feel music in your body.
Sure.
The thing is, what you don't do typically is feel music through your clavicles, which is the only way you could conceivably be hearing
You couldn't attach the scarf to other bones?
Well, you could.
Your femur is just further from your ears.
You could wrap it around your waist, still not where you normally hear music. And that might even cause you to that if somebody put the brown sound on you, you wouldn't want to ride the bus.
You might never have children.
The bone phone was like a thing that you saw for sale in Radio Shacks for a very brief period, 1979 to 1980, 81. And when the Walkman came out, what it did was effectively
It bankrupted its inventor, Robert Phonebone. Bone phone.
What changed was up until 1980, if you were out in the world, in your car, in a park, you had the option of an 8-track tape player. And I had one of those too, a little cube, a little bright red cube that you could put an 8-track in and listen to.
Was it built into the dash, or did you just buy the...
No, I had one in my car, but no, this was a portable thing. All those things, you can just picture people on a picnic blanket spread out in front of their Chevy stepside pickup or their Dodge Little Red Express, drinking Kurs and wearing short denim shorts, Daisy Dukes. Maybe I'm expressing more about myself than I need to on this show.
Why do all these memories have short shorts in them?
They're very instrumental in my childhood. The bone phone was blown out of the water by the Walkman because it's much better to have a cassette tape on your and headphones.
Bone phone blown by phones. Investors moan.
But in researching the bone phone,
That's another euphemism.
I was reminded.
What are you doing tonight? I'm researching the bone phone.
Researching the old bone phone.
Don't give me a call.
I was reminded of Mr. Microphone. And
that I remember.
Mr. Microphone was a microphone shaped, very small sort of FM transmitter, and you could.
It was marketed as a toy, wasn't it?
It was a toy. It was basically a karaoke device that you could tune your FM radio to a certain station and tune the microphone, and then you could broadcast over the radio. It was actually sold at one point. With a kind of there was a cheeky commercial where a guy in a car, a convertible, had a Mr. Microphone, and he drove up on some girls listening to their radio and kind of hijacked it with his microphone and was like, "I'll be back to pick you up later, baby."
Could you do that? You could take over the airwaves Max Headroom style with Mr. Microphone?
If you were 15 feet from the radio. I mean, it was not like a very powerful transmitter.
That's actually closer than I ever was to girls at that age, so it would not have worked for me.
And I feel like we all at the time wanted to do a kind of Brady Bunch with it, and on the other side of a curtain, take over your little sister's radio and say, "Monster is coming for you," and little sister would get scared. It never really worked that well. But what I learned was Mr. Microphone was actually a Ronco product, and Ronco is a name like K-Tel, that is in my head as one of the pillars of American civilization from the standpoint of a kid growing up in the 70s watching television.
Because you don't really get a sense of who the Dow Jones Industrial Average actually is.
Right.
You think, I just showed your daughter this picture of the Nestle Quick Bunny who wants you to drink chocolate milk very fast.
Yes.
She had no idea who this was. But like I probably could recognize the Nesquik Bunny at that age faster than any actor or politician.
Now, when you think about it, the Nesquik Bunny and the Trix Bunny.
Are they friends? Are they related?
How many different rabbits are there that are pitchmen for products? An awful lot. Why do we go to rabbits?
I don't know. They're so sexual?
I guess so. Chester Cheese is a cheetah.
Yeah, he's not a rabbit. Common misconception. You're positing there are a lot of rabbits, and I can only think of these two. Are there other spokes rabbits?
Trix and Quick.
And, rabbits are associated with eating healthy food, vegetables. We call rabbit food salads, and yet these rabbits only like sugary junk food.
I mean, you've got Bugs Bunny. You've got the Playboy Bunny.
That's true.
You've got the Duracell Energizer Bunny.
Oh, you're right. And that is sexual. He keeps going and going.
He does, right? I mean, like there's... why do we call hip-hop hip-hop? I think that you have to say that's
from rabbits?
That's rabbit related.
Really?
Right?
Your assumption is that hip hop culture,
All of hip hop,
has been appropriated from rabbits.
is a rabbit derived culture.
Were they white rabbits like Eminem?
You mean white rabbits as referred to by Jefferson Airplane?
Yes, or Lewis Carroll.
No, I don't think so. I think they were rabbits of all shapes and sizes.
Okay,
They were bunnies.
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 They could be brown bunnies.
MC bunnies.
I do not think that hip hop has anything to do with rabbits, as far as I can tell.
Okay. Well, you're the expert on hip hop on this program.
That's
But
why I'm here.
but I quickly got off the bone phone
Is that another euphemism?
and onto the magical world of Ronco products. And let me give you a little bit of background on Ronco. Sam Popiel was a Jewish guy in New York City in the early part of the 20th century that was a pitchman and someone, selling products to department stores and kind of there was a
Oh yeah, that's a thing. Like
Yeah.
in old TV shows, some guy will set up a little card table and he'll try to get the store to buy some little gadget.
I mean, if you go down to Canal Street now or
Sure.
anywhere in New York City, there's always somebody set up with a little crate selling sunglasses or scarves. No bone phones, as far as I recall.
Right. I keep listening to the Scarves and they refuse to play Fleetwood Mac.
Umbrellas often, as soon as it starts raining, all those guys get rich for 20 minutes selling the world's cheapest umbrellas.
I just like airbrushed paintings of like maybe John Lennon and 9/11. Do they ever have those? No, it doesn't have to be in the same painting. Those could be two different paintings.
All of the musicians that died when they were 27, all playing pool together in heaven.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's an ancient art, right? The art of the pitchman or somebody that's going to kind of say, hey, sorry to stop you for a second, but have you seen this amazing nonstick pan or this knife that can cut through rope or
I think he would do it directly to the consumer also.
both things. I think if you're a salesman, you are working all the time to put food on the table. And if we go to the Washington State Fair, there are huge halls full of people that are trying to sell vacuum cleaners and fertilizer and I mean every kind of thing.
I never go to that part of the fair.
For the most part, we think of consumerism or of the marketplace as a place that we go to looking for a thing.
And people treated it as entertainment for a long time. I am annoyed when people try to sell me things because a culture has built up insulation around me so I don't have to do that.
Right.
But back then people would be like, yeah, sell me something. Come to my door. Tell me about these encyclopedias.
It's kind of the capitalist, like capitalism at its most basic, which is you're sitting on an overturned log, waiting for your pot to boil. And a guy walks up and goes, you know what's better than that log? A chair. And you go, a chair?
There's got to be a better way.
Wow. Tell me more.
There's a video of some guy looking at like wood indentations on his butt. There has to be a better way. The funny thing is on vacation, we still enjoy the experience of, if you feel you're somewhere exotic, you're at some kind of bazaar or souk or something.
Right.
Then you expect there to be a lot of hubbub and commerce and people trying to sell you on things and haggle. And you're like, oh boy, I wish we had this. But back at home, you would do anything to avoid that experience.
Well, and I do anything to avoid it when I'm overseas too. I'm just like, I'm sorry, I don't want to buy your magic spice. And it comes from having bought things in a souk and bringing them home to America. Like, wow, look at this amazing thing that I got in a secret corner of Marrakesh. And then, your friend is like, oh yeah, I got one of those too.
Just Google it.
Yeah. It's just like right here.
I remember the first time I saw some East Asian market, Southeast Asian maybe, they had figured out a way to take pop cans apart and turn them into little helicopters, Hueys. Have you ever seen this where they'll just take an empty pop can and turn the shell into armament? And the first time I saw one, I was like, what an amazing piece of art. This should be in a museum. And then, of course, all I had to be was in a place where there were 10 blankets in a row with people selling those. And you realize, oh, now that I know it's an industry.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
It's ruined for me.
The great thing about pop can art in Southeast Asia in particular is that pop cans are used for a lot of things that you don't see. This is true in Cuba too. If you lift up the hood of one of those beautiful 1950s cars that still are driving around Cuba,
the last cars ever to get to Havana.
Yeah, you realize that a lot of times their carburetors are just made out of Coke cans because everything, all the parts broke and eventually, Shade Tree Mechanics worked out solutions. any Vespa that you buy that claims to have come from Vietnam, there are a lot of Vespas in Vietnam, more Vespas in Vietnam than anywhere outside of Rome. And a lot of them are getting imported to the United States because they're beautiful. They're Vespas from the 1960s. But if you chip the paint away, you realize that a lot of them are made out of Pepsi cans.
Like even the chassis itself?
Basically everything. I mean, Vespas are like a uniframe, unibody, right? So that it has to have some structural integrity. But you have to be very careful of buying an imported Vespa from Vietnam, because they look beautiful, but they're made out of Coke cans. Which is a little bit true of the products of Ronco. What made Ron Popeil different from your typical pitchman was he was also an inventor. And you often see television pitchmen presented as inventors, and usually they're not. I mean, even Edison improved upon a lot of inventions that we credit him with inventing. The electric light was really Edison just kind of monkeying with
some known technologies.
Ron Popeil understood his world and invented things that were easy for him to sell that helped in the kitchen. Ron invented the Slice-O-Matic, the Veg-O-Matic, the Dial-O-Matic, all of these just pretty simple little devices. And the ingenuity of them was that they could do a lot of things. Basically they were variations on a knife, but designed and sold in such a way that the selling point was, this is going to save you time. This is a safer and more efficient and faster way to turn a potato into French fries. You thought you could live without it, but let me show you why.
Lots of 20th century American commerce is built on this idea. And specifically, it's a little bit gendered. It's men promising women that their day is about to get easier.
A lot easier.
You're trapped in the kitchen, but wait, you could have this dishwasher and was the stuff good? Like, I never know watching these infomercials. I always get the sense that it must be a con, or else these would be sold in a real way. Like it's the fundamental problem I have with this kind of sales thing, is that if this was actually good, these would be in Target.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about direct marketing and how it coincides with the rise of television. Because, if you invent a slicer dicer and you want to sell it at a competitive price and you want it to be in Target,
Target's going to take half your money.
Target's going to take 80% of your money, right? I mean, the profit margin of a slicer dicer, particularly if you're selling it for $19.95, isn't that great. What happened in American television land, and this is also going to be a future episode of Omnibus. It's been on my list for a long time, but the television stations used to sign off at the end of the day. They would show a little tape of American flag waving. And
we should do that at the end of every Omnibus.
Yeah,
play the national anthem.
In fact, at the end of my show Roadwork, we do play the national anthem.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's great.
You've never listened to an episode all the way through.
I apparently never got to the end. I assumed they just kept on going.
The episodes? Yeah, they kind of do. In fact, this is an episode of Roadwork that I'm still talking from 3 days ago.
Where's Dan?
You're Dan.
I'm Dan now.
Yeah. You fell into a swimming pool and you're not going to remember any of this. But there was in the later hours of television programming, there were all these advertising spots that television advertisers recognized that there were hot spots that they could charge a lot of money for, right? If you wanted to advertise your Pontiac dealership during the nightly news, when viewership was high, the advertisers could charge rates for that, and during the soap operas, different things were advertised at different rates. That's a television advertising is a complicated algorithm.
You'll have to take our word for it that there was a recent time when the local news was the best time to advertise your Buick dealership.
Everybody tuned in, and you had a captive audience. But during the late movie later programming that wasn't the Carson show.
Time is cheap.
Time is cheap. Cheap all the way to being $7-8 per minute of television advertising on a lot of stations. And so this was a geography that was ripe for exploration or for colonization.
Right.
Most Pontiac dealers didn't want to spend any money advertising Pontiacs to whatever reprobates were up drinking bathtub gin at 11 o'clock at night instead of asleep with their wives, like good Americans.
Like good Pontiac customers.
And so we're accustomed to seeing stranger local businesses advertising later at night. I remember
guys with crazy in their name.
Yeah, that's right. And Crazy Eddie became a big thing. But yeah, the guy that had the head shop or the roller skating rink, they had ads on later at night.
Because it's not that you're just getting a smaller subset of the same viewers. You're getting a different kind of viewer. Their defenses might be lower, for one thing.
Right.
Right? I mean, you're paying a lower rate for maybe a more impressionable viewer.
Well, and they have they're people that have different interests. They're not looking for a Pontiac. They're maybe looking for...
Well, they may not have a job.
They're looking for an escape.
Yeah, if they're watching TV at midnight, they may have less disposable income.
Sam was fortunate enough that his son, Ron, who grew up kind of at Sam's elbow watching the hustle bustle of street huckstering and selling stuff to department stores, Ron recognized that his dad had come up with a couple of cool inventions. The Dial-O-Matic was a slicer dicer, and the dial on it was actually a selector knob for several different kinds of
different blades, right?
Basically graters, right? It was like a four-sided cheese grater, except it was 7 different styles of knife on a rotating dial. So you could click it and make julienne potatoes, or you could click it one more time and make string zucchini.
Click it and forgick it.
Click it, change it.
Turn the dial.
Turn the dial.
Turn the dial.
And turn the dial was the repetitive phrase.
Yeah, there's a kind of hypnotic state these infomercials try to put you in.
Julienne potatoes, turn the dial.
Where the repetition alone makes you do something you would not normally do, like dial a phone number to get a kitchen tool.
Diced onions, turn the dial. Ron took some of his father's inventions, including, quite famously, the pocket fisherman, which was an invention that Sam, watching some kid on the beach swinging his fishing pole around, knocking everybody in the eye with his little lure, invented a pocket fisherman. I think I might have gotten one of these for Christmas.
I don't know if I can picture it.
It's a little sort of handheld plastic fishing pole that's about the size of a large gourd. Maybe not even a large gourd, a medium-sized gourd.
Picture a medium-sized gourd.
It kind of looks like the end of a gasoline nozzle, that you would go to the gas station and the little pistol-shaped gas nozzle. It looks like that.
Does it open out, or
it has a handle, a reel in the middle. There's different compartments where your lures and your weights go, and it's got a trigger that allows you to catch the cast, and you can fish with this little gun, basically a little fishing gun. It doesn't have a long pole attached to it,
but it still works.
And it still works.
Have you used one?
I have.
You
yeah.
fished with
I mean, it's not. If you couldn't catch anything with it bigger than a little trout. I mean, I wouldn't use it to fish for salmon. But it was a novelty. It was kind of like the everyday carry people these days who have in their, attached to their wallet, a switchblade, a compass, a match, some kind of flare igniter, fishing line, of solar station. I mean, all this stuff, fits in your pocket.
I have a Swiss Army knife on my keychain, but as you know, it's like the biggest beta one you can get. It's the one that has
scissors.
It's got tweezers and it's got a ballpoint pen.
It has a pen?
Yeah.
Oh, how cool.
Which I love. Like that's what you actually want sometimes, which is why I have this one. But it's the most cucked Swiss Army knife you can get.
Yeah. I carry a one of those space pens in my wallet.
Just in case. You have to write upside down?
Well, I do all the time have to write upside down because I'm often strung up by my heels and forced to sign contracts.
By your enemies.
Like the one that we signed with How Stuff Works.
If only you hadn't had your space pen, we wouldn't have got into this.
But so a few of these products, they sold pretty well. And Ron...
Were they already advertised on TV, or is this Ron's innovation?
So TV advertising and Sam Popiel, Sam Popiel and Ron Popiel, all of this was kind of it was evolving as it went, and they were advertised on TV, but it hadn't become a nationwide enterprise,
an art form.
That's right, and it was Ron that incorporated Ronco.
Or obviously, it would have been Samco.
And he didn't do it in partnership with his father. His father and his father's brother, Ray, had a company called the Popiel Brothers. I don't know why I say Propiel. That's some kind of hair product, right? Propecia.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. No, the Popiel Brothers, Sam and Ray, had a company that was selling his inventions. Ron started a new company and licensed his father's inventions.
It's odd.
Yeah, a little strange. I mean, who knows what's going on in the Popiel family? But Ron, really like boiled it down to the essence of the pitch, which was, as we've described, he would come out and explain the problem, or later on in his career, another pitch person would explain the problem. God, these onions are so hard to chop.
Throw out my hands.
And then Ron would walk onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Ron Popiel, who became a celebrity in his own right.
But people already act like he's a celebrity before he is.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, it's him. He invented the
self-fulfilling celebrity.
And Ron also pretty good inventor of gizmos. Ron comes out and says, "Have I got a solution for you?" And then describes the thing that Julienne's potatoes, or the smokeless ashtray, or the pocket fisherman. And then there's the urgency of the infomercial pitch. Act now, and you can get the pocket fisherman for only $19.95.
Repeated urgings in that each one must be diminishing your resistance a tiny bit. And at one point, one of them is going to get you to the threshold.
Call now. Call now. If you don't call now, something bad is going to happen to you and your family. Call now. Call now. You can be the one person that prevents the...
And slightly amping up the reward. But wait, there's more.
And then...
you already think it's a pretty good deal, and you're kind of wavering about calling, and then they throw in something extra, and then they throw in something extra, and you're like, holy cow, that's 3 times as good as I thought it was going to be.
And but wait, there's more is the key to his pitch, because he gets you he gets you to the edge.
You're on the fence.
You're like, what if I buy a pocket fisherman that will keep Loki from destroying the Earth? It's like, yes, and not only will it keep Loki from destroying the Earth, but
sometimes they even lie about the price.
You get 2 of those.
Yeah, exactly. Like they'll tell you it's going to cost this much, and you're like, I guess he keeps saying that's a good price, and suddenly it goes from $80 to $25, and then you're like, well, now I have to do it.
You have to do it.
He literally just lowered it by 70%.
It's only $40 shipping and handling. And this was a remarkably successful way of selling things. The pocket fisherman at 1995 sold 2 million pocket fishermen.
There can't be that many Americans who actually fish. It just occurred to me, by the way, that when Dan Aykroyd does the Bass-O-Matic on SNL, it's just combining 2 Ron Popeil bits. It's the pocket fisherman and the Chop-O-Matic.
And it became...
That never occurred to me.
The O-Matic... The goofy sort of Saturday Night Live O-Matic bits, and if you think about it, the Gallagher comedy routine of the Sledge-O-Matic. These are all references, like mid-70s references to what had suddenly become a kind of ubiquitous presence on late-night TV.
Yeah, Matic was not a suffix before then.
Well, products called O-Matic date back to the 1920s because it's basically just saying automatic.
Is the Instamatic camera older than Ron Popeil?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is.
But there are a lot of things, there was, I think one of the earliest products was the Oil-O-Matic. That was something that you connected to your car or or it helped you oil your chainsaw. It was a shorthand for anything that you were selling.
You're selling efficiency and labor saving.
Right, on the strength of it being automatic instead of you needing to take 2 extra steps.
Automatic just means something is doing it for you.
Right. Some of the products that Ronco sold, the Chop-O-Matic, the Dial-O-Matic, and the Veg-O-Matic were all versions of the same kind of put a vegetable into this thing and whack it a few times into this plastic box, and it's going to come out chopped or sliced or transformed.
Things that lend itself to a dramatic on-screen transformation because that's how you're going to sell it. Like It's probably more interesting to watch somebody cut potatoes than it is to try it yourself.
Well, yeah. And just imagining, I mean, for me, it never occurs to me to make French fries because I don't like potatoes. But imagining, I have started, since the quarantine began, I have started making a lot more food at home and sitting with a knife and chopping things. And because this is not what I normally do, there's still the kind of novelty of like, wow. Because I worked as a short order cook in the early 90s and learned all of the ways to whack a head of cabbage and chop an onion.
A tomato, yeah.
But having not done it for a long time, I don't have the practice of a fast hand with a sharp knife. And so doing it is fun. I leave me alone with an onion. I want to chop this onion. It's neat. But if I were doing it all the time, if I were making home cooked meals and chopping the onion was just a thing I had to get from one side of to the other, this little box the thing about all these choppers is they never show somebody trying to clean it later. And I think later on, one of the selling points was easy to clean.
But they are pretty good. Yeah. It's not a ripoff.
No, they work. And that's why they sold millions of these things. And the combination of that and the fact that watching late night TV, this sort of fun figure and television pitch people are typically, if you're inclined to think they're weird, they're certainly weird. But if you're inclined to think that they're fun, they seem pretty fun. And they're here to help. Another invention of Ron Popeil was the inside the shell egg scrambler. Ron Popeil apparently did not like to see an unscrambled egg because he thought the whites were gross.
I like how his neurosis leads to some labor-saving device that no one but him would want.
So he invented this thing. It's kind of like what we used to do to make Easter eggs, where you knock a little hole in the end of an egg, but instead of draining it out or blowing it out, his little device went inside and scrambled the egg inside the shell. So you never had to do that terrible business of scrambling an egg with a fork.
I'm not seeing it, but then that's the whole idea. You're buying a toy.
Right.
You're on some level, you think you're buying efficiency, but you're really buying a toy.
And it turns food preparation into fun, let's say, maybe.
Does it turn it into fun preparation?
It's a little bit fun preparation.
It's pretty fun.
The Showtime rotisserie was a kind of early, like countertop little rotisserie oven that you could stick a small chicken, little hen, or a small roast in there and watch it spin around roasting, which I think probably the first time that you saw a device like that for the home counter, it made you feel pretty deluxe.
It's anticipating foodie culture, because at first it's just doing kind of simple things for your casseroles. It's chopping onions or tomatoes or whatever.
Right.
But as the things get a little more arcane and baroque, we're really starting to enter an America where people do want to make more unusual foods at home. And as a pastime, not just as an hour you got to get through to get the food on the table before dad gets home from work.
If you think about today, half of the things in a department store seem to be little devices to sit on your countertop and do some arcane food production. I mean, and
people do buy them for fun.
For sure.
Like my wife kind of fetishizes a good, garlic presses you do use, but melon ballers and lemon zesters and, things that are more fun to have for their weird specialized purpose than than are actually useful.
But the machines too, like I was on tour many years ago with a big shot English band that toured with their own chefs, and the chefs set up a juicer in the backstage area, and they had a big basket of delicious fruits and vegetables, and so you could come in after a long drive and make yourself
spinach, olive oil, and chocolate smoothie.
Big fresh juice and drink it, and you'd feel that immediate launch of sugar energy that comes from a big fresh glass of juice. And it just seemed like, wow, we're living, man. This is how you live. Every day you have a big glass of beet juice and lime, and then you'll live forever and play rock music. And so I got one for the house, and then I realized it takes 3 minutes to make the juice, 1 minute to drink it, and then 45 minutes to clean this freaking juicer. But now here at the house, we have a one pot, which we use all the time. But eventually that one pot is going to get put away on a bottom shelf, and we're going to forget it's there, and it'll be there for a year.
There is a little honeymoon period where you really use the sous vide a lot.
Yeah.
And then you kind of forget you got a sous vide thing.
We have one of those hyper Vegematic blenders that you can throw everything in. It's better than a juicer because it uses the whole buffalo. And every once in a while we remember we have that and make delicious smoothies for a week or two, and then sort of forget that exists either.
It's really the gadget love that we associate in this culture more with men,
right.
Really loving to see when James Bond's watch has a little fishing line in it or whatever.
There's a ton of that. And there's another Ronco product was the solid flavor injector, which is basically a giant...
Everything here is a euphemism.
It's a giant hypodermic needle that you stick into your one kind of food and inject a different kind of food into the middle.
Why does this chicken not taste like kiwi fruit?
Right. I want chocolate chicken. How do I get it? But the chocolate keeps burning.
There has to be a better way, Ron.
Use the solid flavor injector. The smokeless ashtray was a great Ronco invention back when everybody smoked. It had a little fan in it that sucked the smoke away. Pretty nice. You could imagine, especially in a house where mom smoked and dad didn't.
Yeah.
The smokeless ashtray, pretty cool.
That kept a lot of marriages together until somebody died of lung cancer.
The first food dehydrator that was popularized was a Ronco product in the 60s.
Make your own raisins.
And then some other things that we maybe remember and forget were Ronco products, like the rhinestone stud setter, the whole bedazzling of jeans and jean jackets. Mm. Well, that started as a Ronco product. And something called the cap snaffler, which was just
a Dr. Seuss creature
with the thing that took
gloves?
caps off of bottles. It was apparently that was they tried to popularize the term snaffle.
I'm so tired of snaffling these bottles on my own.
Come on,
There's
you
gotta
need
be
to
a better way.
snaffle this bottle. Hey, Mom, can you snaffle this for me?
Is the word snaffle a made-up neologism of Ron Popeil?
I believe so. Do you want to look that up?
It looks like it may be older.
Snaffle?
Yeah, I think a snaffle, it's a horsemanship term. What's the word for livery? It's like a kind of bridle or something.
Oh, but not a thing having to do with taking bottle caps off.
No, unless your horse can open your bottle with its teeth.
A product you might remember, the GLH9.
GLH9, is that Wolverine's code name?
No, GLH9 stands for Great Looking Hair 9, meaning that there were 8 prior Great Looking Hair products that didn't make it to market.
Will I understand GLH9 if I haven't seen GLH 1 through 8?
I think you will. GLH9 is hair in a can.
Hey, I remember. It's the aerosol hair?
Aerosol hair. There are a lot of different kinds of hair in a can. One of them is just black spray paint.
But did this one have body?
Yeah.
Did it spray fuzz on your head?
It sprayed fuzz. Yeah, it sprayed some sort of baldness camouflaging fuzz.
In the commercial, it looks pretty convincing in the infomercial.
It depends, I think, on what kind of hair you have to start with.
Yeah.
And how much just spray, like basically Christmas tree flocking in different colors is going to look like hair. But it also depends on what kind of balding you are. Like, I wouldn't recommend creating a front hairline with it. It's for
It takes a steady hand.
yeah, it's for you need like to get some hip hop graffiti nubbins for your can.
It's for the bald spot at the crown of the head, right? That's what they use on the commercial.
Right.
And I often have thought, with just the limitations of 480 lines of resolution, I can't tell if this is going to look good or not. And I suspect not. Like that's the kind of infomercial that makes me doubt all infomercials. It's a bridge too far.
Right. It is a little bit unlikely, but I think it depends on how much you're willing to suspend disbelief.
And if you're balding, maybe you have a lot more willingness to believe.
There are, having spent some time in Florida over the years, there are a lot of men wearing improbable hair, and their elegant wives seem to turn a blind eye.
It's no obstacle to the highest office in the land.
Now, Ronco was a successful enough business that there were, of course, like innumerable imitators, but a direct-to-market business that kind of came to that was a contemporary of Ronco was a business started in the mid-'60s by a guy named Philip Kynes called K-Tel.
Oh,
named after his
K for Kynes?
His K for Kynes. And K-Tel was similarly kind of K-Tel started selling Teflon pans on late night television. And K-Tel started also to buy the rights to market some of the products of Sam Popeil and his son Ron. They were competitors, but also
in certain products they were partnering.
K-Tel would license the rights to market them in Australia, for instance. The Feather Touch knife sold $20 million worth of Feather Touch knives in the 60s in Australia. Somehow Feather Touch really connected, and K-Tel was the company that brought it to market. So K-Tel was doing a lot of this similar stuff. And K-Tel had an innovation, which was in 1966, K-Tel got into the music business. They were selling a lot of gimcrackery up until this point, but they put out a compilation album called 25 Country Hits, and no one had ever done it before. They just went around to the music business and said, hey, can we license this one-hit song by Glenn Campbell?
And multiple artists on one
25
record.
Different artists on one record
Had
playing
never happened.
25 number one country songs.
You'd think you would want that. It's similar to listening to hit radio.
Well, people did want it. It was a massive hit. And then they released their second record, 25 Polka Greats. And
they're moving up to
in the late 60s.
Having conquered country, they moved to the bigger market of polka.
25 Polka Greats sold 1.5 million copies.
How is that possible?
A lot of people in 1969 wanted to hear polka music.
A lot of people in Wisconsin, maybe.
This was this kind of changed the music business, and Ronco got in on the act. Ronco, then taking a page from K-Tel, released a compilation record called That'll Be the Day that spent 6 weeks at number one.
That'll Be the Day. Is it its old 50s Buddy Holly type stuff?
Yeah, a compilation of what we would...
boomer nostalgia music?
Well, pre-boomer nostalgia, but yeah, like early boomer nostalgia.
And it's probably a lot of one-hit wonders because you can get the rights. You probably will not hear any Elvis on That'll Be the Day.
No,
but there's probably plenty of Jerry Lee Lewis.
And that was the great thing about those compilation records. You're probably not going to go buy a whole Guess Who album, but you'd love to hear American Woman was the premise. And That'll Be the Day, spending 6 weeks at number one in 1973, actually changed the charts in the sense that
they had to change the rules?
No, yeah, they had to change the rules to keep compilation albums off the charts. So it was number one for 6 weeks and didn't fall off the charts. They changed the charts.
It was ejected.
So one day it was just no longer on the charts. It was ejected.
That's like how the New York Times was tired of Harry Potter at the top of all its book charts. So it created the new children's chart just to
get it off of there.
To get fiction back on the bestseller list.
And K-Tel dominated the music the television direct to market music business.
So from the time they have the albums, they're already doing the TV ads that we all remember if you don't remember these ads, you can't show a particular artist. So it's often kind of a landscape or a scenic background while this endless parade of hits scrolls across the screen like end credits.
Right.
And you hear a little snatch of each and you think that's true. That is a great Kenny Rogers song.
That's right. I mean, that's where, and we get so much hilarious sort of proto meme culture from that. Like, hey man, is that Freedom Rock? I mean, that Freedom Rock is just a compilation. The first album I ever bought was an 8-track tape of a compilation called Studio 54.
Disco
and it was
hits?
all the disco hits. I saw this on television on my little black and white TV. I was sitting in the kitchen. I remember it. I remember the commercial to this day. And it was like, Gloria Gaynor and the Village People and all of the early disco hits. And I turned to my mom and I was like, I really want that record. And she bought it for me. Of course, 8-track, the best of all formats. And I wore Studio 54 out. Loved it. Now, I never signed up for the 10 records for $1 version of the...
Did K-Tel have a Columbia House type gimmick?
No,
right?
the Columbia House then took it to the next level.
Yeah.
This kind of weird clearinghouse of it. Ronco made a ton of money selling compilation hits. And what this all produced was a lot of money for the Popiel family. In the case of Ron, he's still alive and still selling products on television. But now when he enters the talk show,
he has a walker.
No, he's got like the fanfare of a conquering general.
Well, he's in his mid-80s.
Like, here he comes. Oh my God, it's him, Ron Popiel. His father, Sam, had a little bit more of a colorful later years. Sam became rich from his inventions and the licensing of them. He divorced Ron's dad and married a woman by the name of Eloise.
He divorced Ron's dad.
He divorced.
That's very forward thinking.
He divorced Ron's mom and married a woman by the name of Eloise. They moved to, I guess, Florida, California. They were rich people.
One of those.
They became estranged. Eloise started dating a much younger man who was kind of like a flight instructor type. She was in her late 40s. He was in his mid 30s. And the two of them felt very oppressed by Sam Popiel's surveillance. I guess they got divorced. Sam Popiel, according to Eloise, was still a bad agent. Although it was, I think, maybe convincingly suggested that there were financial motivations to Eloise and her boyfriend Dan concocting a murder scheme to kill Sam Popiel.
What?
And
just to inherit the Popiel empire?
Collect the money. And Dan went to a couple of his buddies and tried to get him to, I think at first poison him and then shoot him.
Like Rasputin? You got to do both?
Yeah, poison him and shoot him. Or they tried to poison him, but then they couldn't figure it out.
John, when you're trying to kill Sam Popiel, there's got to be a better way. You got all this poison. You got all these guns.
But wait, there's more. They tried to get their buddies to do this, and their buddies turned on them, ratted them out. There was a kind of a high profile celebrity trial. They were convicted of attempted murder, and Eloise went to prison for a little while, but then later divorced Sam, and somehow amazingly got out of prison and was granted $250,000 as part of her divorce settlement. So the two universes were...
Think how much she would have got if she hadn't tried to kill him.
That's right. They were somewhat kept separate.
I guess it's the difference between civil and criminal law.
Yeah. She was in prison for 19 months and then came out and was like, well, I got soft landing. But wait, there's more. Turns out she reconciled with Sam and they remarried.
I think I would have some trust issues at that point.
She's
She's like, honey, I only tried to kill you once. Can we think back to all the times when I didn't try to kill you? Why do we have to focus on that one bad episode?
But wait, there's more.
No.
Ron Popeil's sister, Lisa Popeil, got into the music business, partly because I think her brother was weirdly a music mogul.
Because of these compilation records?
And released a record called Lisa Popeil of her own tunes. But she became kind of a favorite and muse of Frank Zappa. And sang on some Zappa tunes and actually like sang with Zappa in concert. She would wear a lace teddy and join Zappa on stage as one of his vocalists. And through her connection to Ronco and the Vegematic and Zappa, she became part of Weird Al's universe and has sung on several Weird Al albums and has toured with Weird Al.
Zappa is the rock star who's the most maybe novelty song adjacent.
Yeah.
So I guess that makes sense.
Right. And he's kind of the bridge between Saturday Night Live and Steve Vai.
And so she's a backup singer now, kind of?
Yeah, I mean, a featured singer. She sings backup and I think probably steps forward at one point. I've never seen Weird Al in concert.
I have seen Weird Al live, and it's not a Magnetic Fields type thing where different vocalists take over different songs. It's usually Weird Al, honestly.
And I think she does sing. She does sing with Weird. I think she sings as a backing singer, but
like duet type parts when applicable.
Yeah, like a feature, maybe not duet as much as what I imagine happens is that Weird Al says it's Lisa Popeil.
Another one rides the bus
from the
Lisa Popeil
thing from the Vegematic.
Oh, do they play up her Popeil connection?
I can't imagine you're going to have Lisa Popeil on stage with either Zappa or Weird Al, and they won't mention the Vegematic.
Because you hear the name Popeil, and that's what else could it be?
I mean, it's not a name that immediately conjures Vegematic to me. But if you were, the thing is, backup singers don't always get the spotlight, right?
You might not know their names.
One of her songs was called. One of her songs is entitled "Don't Turn Me Off and On," which suggests a kind of rotisserie.
I guess
innuendo, right? I mean, you're the one that's been finding innuendo and everything.
Vegematic as sexual metaphor.
Yeah. She has the lead off track on her record is called Primo Man, which definitely feels like a Zappa title.
I feel like this has now become an infomercial for Lisa Popeil's music. So how much would you pay for that? I'd pay maybe $28 plus shipping and handling. But wait. What if we could offer it to you for a lot less?
Okay, she sings on Weird Al's song. Oh wait, Weird Al has a song called Mr. Popeil.
Oh, about infomercials.
Yeah, and actually, Lisa's record featured Steve Vai. So
it sounds like all your favorite things are coming together. This is very exciting for you.
But wait. There's not any more.
And that concludes Ronco, entry 1081.MI0303, certificate number 32041, in the omnibus. Now, listeners, if you've ever just sat around staring at an empty computer screen, writing down your random thoughts in a notebook, you've probably thought to yourself, there's got to be a better way. Let me suggest
I thought you were going to say that they must have thought to themselves, I could do omnibus.
Have you ever spent 8 minutes reading a Wikipedia entry and then bought some podcasting equipment? No. Let me recommend to you the social media-amatic approach. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, each better than the next. You can find us at Omnibus Project. at Ken Jennings and at John Roderick, respectively. There's on Facebook, there's a wonderful, Facebook doesn't have a lot to recommend it, but An Island of Sanity is the Futurelings who congregate there, as well as on Reddit and possibly even Discord. I'm not sure because I don't know what that is, and I've nodded too many times now, so I can't even ask. You can email us at theomnibusproject@gmail.com with your thoughts and tell us your infomercial stories. Which of them actually paid off for you? Which of these devices fell apart the first time you used it?
I wonder how many people are, even right now, listening to the show while they slice and dice.
Yeah, you could even julienne if you wanted, but you'd have to hit that sucker just right. You can send us your used Ronco products.
No, please don't.
If you regret buying them, please send them to John. He's already got what did you have? A one pod and a
one pot.
And I'll never use my Instapot again if you send me all your Ronco stuff. You can send those to Omnibus Project at PO Box 55744, Shoreline, Washington 98155. If you would like to support the show materially, basically we do an infomercial twice a week. This whole show is half an hour of content disguising the fact that at the end,
we talk about Pepsi every time.
At the end, we just want you to pay $25 plus shipping and handling to patreon.com/Omnibus Project. Again, $25 plus shipping and handling to patreon.com/Omnibus Project.
There's more. Act now.
Act now.
Futurelings, from our vantage point in your distant past, and I do emphasize distant because human civilization shows every sign of flourishing and prospering for well into the foreseeable future. But we have no idea precisely how long our civilization survives. We hope and pray that the catastrophe we fear may never come, but if the worst comes soon, this recording, like all our recordings, may have been our final word. But if Providence allows, we hope to be back with you soon for another entry in the Omnibus.